That looks pretty good. Okay, so rotations. Rotations is if this was the origin, my fist. And I've got my pair of scissors here, and I want to rotate it. Rotation means I'm spinning it around the origin. That's a rotation. All the ones we're looking at spin around the origin as a rotation. So rotation is a spin. Rotation is a spin. Now the first one's a 180. It's not too bad. The 180s aren't bad at all. It's the 90s that can sometimes get a little bit tricky. Now, anytime I talk about rotations, I like talking about quadrants. So this is quadrant 1, top right-hand corner. And then it goes in a C shape. So 1, and it's always Roman numerals. 2, 3, 4. So I've got my 4 quadrants. So if I'm going 180 degrees, well, we know all the way around the circle back where I started is 360. So I'm going half the way around the circle. So if I start here and I'm going halfway around the circle, for the most part it's in 4. Yeah, it sticks out a little bit here, but for the most part it's 4. What quadrant is this going to end up if I go 180 degrees around? 2, because it's going to go here and spin up into here. And on a 180, it doesn't matter what direction you go, because it's the complete opposite corner. Which means when we go to graph it, you just do everything the opposite way. Just everything's backwards. So W was right 1, down 2. So I'm going to go left 1, up 2. That's my W. X, right 2, down 2. I'm going to go left 2, up 2. So I'm just doing everything the complete opposite direction. Complete opposite direction. Let's do V next. V was left 1, down 5. So it's right 1, up 5. There's my V. And then Y, right 3, down 5. So left 3, up 5. There's my Y. Connect. There's my shape. Notice, it's still congruent. Rotations are still congruent figures. I didn't change the shape. All I did was I spun it around the origin. I spun it around. So 180. Can you run through that again? So I'm starting here. I'm spinning halfway around the circle. So I'm going to spin it up to here. Because it's the complete opposite corner, I just go complete opposite direction. So what was right and down, I now go left and up. Oh. So right down, I go left and up. Okay. So complete opposite directions. See, a couple people still getting that one on their paper. Now 2, let me throw my quadrants in here again. So I've got quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. And sometimes on the state test, they'll tell you to do something and then it just says what quadrant did it end up in. So you really kind of need to know your quadrants, because I've seen that question sometimes. They may say reflect this, rotate this. What quadrant was it? Now, on this one, I'm going 90 clockwise. So it's a 90 clockwise. That's what I'm doing. Now I uncovered my clock, even though it's like a completely wrong clock. So I'm going clockwise. So clockwise is going around this way. This is clockwise. Right now, everything's in this bottom left-hand corner. That's what area it is in the clock. I'm going 90 clockwise, so it's going to spin up to the top left-hand part of the clock. So it's going to spin up into there. So it was here. It's going to spin up into here. So everything's going to be here. Here, to here. Now the G was on an axis. It's going to stay on an axis, but it's going to spin up into this axis. So G's here. Now the other points, because it goes at 90 degrees, the numbers are going to switch. So you're going to switch those numbers. So just think about what quadrant it ends up in. So F is spinning up into here. It was 5, 1, but I got to trade those numbers. It ends up here. So I'm going to go 1, 5. So my F is there. So I was here. Those are my F and G now. E, 4, 4. Well, switching them is still 4, 4, but it spins up into here. So 4, 4. H, 1, 5. It was down here. It's going to spin into here. So now it's 5. Wait a minute. 1, 5. So it's 5, 1. So that's my H. So I did it 90 degrees clockwise. I went one quadrant over. Do it.
Do we do the opposites for counterclockwise?
Counterclockwise, kind of the same thing, but instead of going this way, I'm now going this way, so it would spin that way. The same basic idea as what we did on that one. So 1 and 2. Are we okay on 1 and 2? Any questions? Number 3 is a counterclockwise. So let's look at a counterclockwise. So 3, we got a counterclockwise. So counterclockwise, now I'm going the other direction. So now I'm spinning this way against the clock. I was up here. When I go 90 degrees, what was here kind of straddling 1 and 2, it's going to spin down here and kind of straddle 2 and 3. So here, spinning to here. So that means this A is going to end up in this corner. It's got to end up in this corner. A was 3, 5. Trade those numbers, but make sure it's in this corner. So I'm going to go 5, 3. So that's the A. So I always visualize what corner it's going into. Switch the numbers. I don't think positive, negatives, or anything like that, because then I think it just gets confusing. I just visualize where it's headed. The other 3, those are all spinning down into here. So I want to make sure they end up in this corner. B is 1, 5. Switch the numbers, 5, 1. So here's my B. C, 3, 4. Switch the numbers, 4, 3. And then finally D, 2, 3. Switch the numbers, 3, 2. So I was here, almost the shape of a pair of scissors. So I was here, I went 90 degrees, and it spun down to here. So 90 degrees counterclockwise. Like I said, I always think about where is it headed, and then switch the numbers. I don't think about positive, negatives. I think that just gets really confusing. Just think of where it's headed. Number 3, are we okay? Now 4, 5, and 6 are basically the same thing. The only difference is you've got to graph the original. So let's graph the original. I'm going to do the original in purple. So I've got -3, -1, -3, -1. So there's my G. H was -1 up to 3. H. I, now be really careful. I've seen a lot of people, if there's a 0 somewhere in the coordinate, they get backwards. So 0 means I don't go sideways, down 2. So that's my I. Yeah, I did a lousy job drawing that. Show that again.
Yeah, I do too.
That looks better. So there's my triangle. So just get everything where it belongs. That's my original. Now it's a 180. It just means completely the opposite direction. If I were to go through the coordinates, I could just rewrite all the coordinates with opposite numbers, or not opposite numbers, opposite signs. So like H was left and up, so I'm going to go right and down. So that's H. I was just down, so I'm going to go just up. G was left and down, so I'm going to go right and up. There's my G. Reconnect. Yes.
Oh, I was about to ask a question already.
Okay. So like I said, 180s aren't too bad. Just go the complete opposite direction. Complete opposite, because you're spinning at 180 degrees. It's kind of like an about face.
Flashbacks to marching band.
Yep, marching band. It's about face, 180. Turn around. So 4, are we okay? So 5. Again, we got to draw the original. So let's look at the original again. Now again, be really careful because there's some zeros in here. And I've seen a lot of people do zeros wrong. So just be careful. 0, -3, don't go sideways, down 3. So there's my P. 0, -1, don't go sideways, down 1. There's my Q. 4, -2, most people seem to do better on these. So 4 means sideways 4, down 2. There's my R. S, 3, -4, 3, down 4. There's my S. So there's my quadrilateral. Some random four-sided figure. And right now, this four-sided figure is basically in quadrant 4. Yeah, there's a couple things on an axis, but we're looking at quadrant 4. That's where it's sitting. So if it's in quadrant 4, and I'm trying to go 90 degrees counterclockwise, it's going to spin to where? What quadrant is it going to end up in? It's going to end up in 1. So what was here, RS is my fingertips, QP is my palm. I'm going to spin it up. It's going to end up here. So RS will end up here. QP is going to end up down here. So QP is going to end up on this axis right here where my palm is. So Q, here, 1. P was 3. So there's my Q and my P. Now, like I said, RS was here. RS is going to spin up here. RS, kind of here and here. 4, 2, switch it around to 4. That's my new R. S, 3, 4, switch it around, 4, 3. There's my S. So like I said, I was here, Here's my turning point, so it's going to spin around. It's going to end up here. We good on 5? Let's look at 6. Now 6, again, graph all your originals. There's a lot of duplicate numbers, which makes it a little bit easier some ways. But once we get this graph, you'll see that it's a bit trickier. U is -3, -3. So here's my U. V was -4 on the line. W, -2, +2. So there's W. And then X was 1, -1. There's X. So this one's like all over the place. I mean, number 5 for the most part was all contained in one quadrant, and I split it up. This one, I mean, I've got things everywhere. But the only thing I don't have anything is quadrant 1. So I'm really going to have to kind of think of this one point at a time and figure out where is it headed. Now I'm going clockwise. So I'm going clockwise. So I'm going this way, clockwise. Well, let's do X first. X was here. If I'm going clockwise, X is going to end up in which quadrant? 3. So X has to end up over here. 1, 1, changing the numbers isn't going to do anything, but I got to put it in this corner. So that's a 1, 1 in that corner. Now let's look at U. So U is starting here in quadrant 3. I'm going clockwise. So U starts here in quadrant 3. When I spin it, it's going to what corner? 2. So it was here, it's spinning to 2. So it's got to end up in this corner. It's at 3, 3. So switching the numbers isn't going to change a 3, 3, but it's a 3, 3 in this corner. Let's move to the next one. Let's do V. V is smack dab between 2 and 3. So if it's on the axis between 2 and 3, when I spin it, it's still going to be on an axis, but it's going to be between which 2? So I was here between quadrant 2 and 3. Now it's going to spin 90 degrees, and it's going to spin to between 1 and 2. So there's my V. Because if it's on the axis, it's going to stay on the axis. It's just going to move one axis differently. One more to go, W. W's here. Started in 2. So I started in 2. It's spinning to, where is it spinning? 1. Because I'm going this way. 2, go 1 quadrant over, 1. It's a 2, 2. It's going to stay at 2, 2, but it's a 2, 2 in quadrant 1. That's why I said this one's kind of tricky because you really have to do one corner at a time because it was all over the place. I think these are a lot easier to visualize because you're just like, oh, it's here, it's spinning here. This one, I mean, it was everywhere. Reconnect. There's my rotation. Now the next 4 are the quick ones because they're already graphed. The only thing I'm doing is saying what happened. So they're quick. Everybody okay, 5 and 6? 7, 8. I have to say what happened. So what do you think on number 7? This is my original. There's no marks. That's my new with the marks. It's a 180. So it's a rotation, 180 degrees. If it's a 180, it doesn't matter what direction you're going, because it's just the complete opposite direction.
How would you know if you're rotated 90?
So let's look at the next one. So this one, I started here. So this is kind of the middle of the shape. I went to here. So this one, instead of going from here halfway around to here, I only went 90 degrees. I did like one corner of the circle. So it's a 90. Does that answer your question? Now, I gotta say what direction I did it though, because it was a 90. It would be counterclockwise. This one doesn't have marks, this one does. So that told me it was going this way. So 90 counterclockwise. And it was a rotation. Are we okay there? Next two. Number 9, what do you think?
Counterclockwise 180.
It is 180. It actually doesn't matter what direction because it's a 180. So it's a 180. It's a rotation. Now, all of our problems on this is rotation. If I were to give you one that was mixed up, you'd have to say definitely it's rotation. So it's just a good habit to say it's rotation. 10. This is my original because it has no marks. I'm going to kind of put it in the middle. It's going to here that has the marks. So therefore, what did it spin? Right, it went 90 degrees clockwise. 90 clockwise. And it's a rotation. And technically, yes, it's about the origin, but I'm not so worried about that part. Now, 11 through 24. 11 through 24. Like 11 through 20 or 19, something like that. Some of them you got the graph already, and then you rotate it. Some of them you're gonna have to put your own original in, then rotate it. The last 4 are just kind of like those. You just have to say what happened. So those go really quick. Try to get as much done as possible. So that way tomorrow when we're going over it, you can actually tell if you're not sure of something. If you didn't do it, who knows? Even if it's wrong, that's okay. We'll fix it tomorrow. But you got to know if you're right or wrong. So try to get as much done as you can for tomorrow. If you still owe me papers, try to get those to me tomorrow also, so that way you're taken care of for the week. Yes. Okay. Grab my paper. Yes. Yes. And with my key. Up here. It is up here. Okay, where we at?
I don't know what to do. Because I went over one and down five. But when I goes up 1 to 5.
All right. First, you did U. Yeah. So U can't end up on a side because it didn't start on a side. So let's erase it. What you have is one in the correct direction. So you are going this way. So U is going to end up in this corner. U was 2, 3. Switch the numbers, but have it going in this corner. 3, 2. So U is going to move there. That makes sense? So like B was 1, 5. It's also coming into this corner. That's going to be 5, 1. Okay?
Yeah.
there, then there. Oh, don't forget to stop it this time.